I played football in 8th grade. Now, that may come as a shock to some of you, but I want to assure you that I wasn't any good. The only reason why I got any field time was we were a little school in Olpe, Kansas, and Olpe had 526 people in it, according to the sign that they had when you actually drove into the town. And here's how bad I was. I don't even remember the position I played. But my team was pretty good that year. We were playing 8-man football. Every game we were winning. We were undefeated until we got to the end. So we were in the championship. All of us were training extra hard. We were having extra practices. We were watching the games of the other team. We were trying to figure out all their techniques. I was sitting happily in the back with the rest of the guys. We got to the game. We fought hard. And we lost. Now, we've all experienced things like that, I'm sure. We've all experienced times when we've worked really hard for something. We've put all of our effort, all of our heart into something. We maybe even shed a little blood, sweat, tears, as Winston Churchill said. And yet we lose. Now, the question is for us, was that fight worth it, even if we lost? Who here has ever engaged in some game or competition that they fought hard in and still lost? You don't need to raise your hand, but think, was that fight still worth it? Absolutely. I wouldn't have traded that for anything. Because in that fight, I learned incredible things. I worked hard. I grew in fraternity with my brothers. Today, we're talking about the virtue of fortitude. Over the course of Advent, I have talked about the virtues of prudence, temperance. Last week, I talked about justice. And this week, I'm talking about fortitude. How does the Catechism of the Church define fortitude? It says that fortitude is the perseverance to a good in spite of difficulty. It perfects us so that we pursue that good thing no matter if it's difficult, no matter if it's hard, no matter if it is painful. Fortitude is another name for courage, but it's not mere courage as though somebody is going out into battle without any armor, without any protection, and willingly giving up their life. No. Fortitude is entering into the battle, knowing that you could lose your life and still thinking it's worth it. Now, in battles in humankind, in our history, there are two results. You win or you lose. There's always a winning side, losing side. That's just reality. But in the Christian battle, we have something greater. We have the knowledge that the battle has already been won. But our part in the fight has not yet been fought. That's something crucial for us to consider as we're considering the Christian battle, fortitude which assists us in that battle. We know that we are winners. Christ has won the battle for us. There's no fear that, like my 8th grade team did, we're going to lose. If, and this is a big if we decide to fight. Christianity is often made into a nice religion. It's made into a really nice thing. You know, we can come together a couple times a year. We can celebrate Christmas, Easter, and look at the little baby Jesus. He's so adorable, isn't he? And then what happens is it totally destroys the foundations of what Christianity actually is. Christianity isn't a nice religion. as though it's some option, as though it's some nice thing you can do, just like you might decorate your house for Christmas, or you might send a nice little card that says, thinking of you. No. Christianity is something radical. It's a fight. It's a battle. The Second Vatican Council calls it, us as Christians, the pilgrim people. And this is not pilgrims like Thanksgiving. This is pilgrims on a journey fighting through the desert, like Israel, following the pillar of fire that is Jesus Christ's cross. This is Christianity. And Christianity demands that you have skin in the game, demands that you can almost lose. Now, when you're actually fighting the battle of Christianity, you can't lose because Christ is fighting for you. But the reality is that we could, because of our own individual choices, choose to leave the battle. We can choose to forget what is the most important. And so if we want to have fortitude in the battle, if we want to continue pursuing the good, which is Jesus Christ, even in the midst of all the difficulties of Christian life, we have to have what is called a hierarchy of goods, hierarchy. We have to see what is good, what is merely fine, and what is evil. We have to see that God is the most important thing, that nothing compares to serving, loving, and knowing God. Then we have to see that our family, or our professional life, depending, our vocation would be best to say, our vocation is the next most important thing. Then comes all the rest. When we have firmly planted in our heart this hierarchy, that God is most important, our vocation is the next most important, and then everything else, we see how all the other things in our life are oriented towards God. And that fortitude is really, in many ways, sacrificing those lesser goods for the sake of the greatest good. It's really entering into the battle, willing to sacrifice even your life for the sake of the greatest loves that you have. So Christianity, from the very beginning, has seen fortitude as something essential to who we are. And that's why we celebrate the martyrs. In the first Eucharistic prayer, which is the most ancient of all the Eucharistic prayers, it's the one where it goes through the names of the saints. We have one whole section of it that goes through all the early Christian martyrs of Rome. Perpetua, Felicity, Agnes, Cecilia, Anastasia. And why do we do that? Because these are the men and women who taught us what it means to be truly Christian. They had skin in the game, and they gave their skin for the game. And because of them, they have passed on the religion, the true faith to us. And so, martyrdom is not something merely secondary to Christianity. It's essential. Fortitude shows us that martyrdom is at the very core of who we are as Christians. That each one of us has to die. We have to give up what is lesser in our life for the sake of the one good thing, which is God. Now, that doesn't mean, obviously, each one of us will shed our blood necessarily, though God willing, I pray that I could. But each one of us has to die to self every single day. We have to die to the life of sin. We have to die to those things which hold us back from the one good thing, which is God. How do we grow in fortitude? We grow in fortitude by trial and error, by recognizing what's most important and working and giving our hearts to it constantly. That doesn't mean we're always going to succeed, but if we continue to work hard and practice, if we continue to examine our conscience every single day, if we ask ourselves, did I fight the Christian battle today, or did I sit on the sideline? If we ask ourselves that question, we will grow in fortitude. And we'll discover the truth that only in giving of our life to the very end can we discover the meaning of who we are as Christians. Men and women of the cross who love to the end, who have a hierarchy of goods, who are willing to sacrifice the lesser goods for the greater goods so that they can imitate not only our Lord, but all the saints who have gone before us. We can see in Mary today a model of fortitude. Because even though she had everything against her, she still said yes to God when he said, "Will you conceive and bear my son?" That's a true model of fortitude. And that's the kind of faith we want to have.